Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about what gear is in my bag. So as you guys know, I don't want to make this channel too much about gear. I want to keep it on the photography business stuff and the principles of photography more so than the gear, as it's just a tool for me. But I thought it was about time I did a what's in my bag to show you guys what gear I'm shooting on and what I'm using in 2025 to give you an idea of the gear that pros use, and you might be a bit surprised by some of it or you might not. So let's jump into it. So first up, let's talk about bags. Now, when it comes to bags, it's personal preference as to the features that you need and sort of the layout of it and how it operates. I've tried heaps of different ones over the years, and these days what I use are these two Burton packs. Burton's obviously a snowboard brand that obviously I came from shooting snowboarding, but I found these to be amazing backpacks. Sadly, they don't make them anymore. This is the large version, which I'm not sure of the literage. And then I've got the small one as well, and I've been using both of these for years and they are just indestructible. They've dealt with all the weather I could ever throw at them, and like I said, it's sad they don't make them anymore, but if you can get your hands on them, they're awesome packs. But these are the main two that I use. I think this one was called the F-Stop and this one was called the Zoom from memory. But the F-Stop is my main pack that I run on shoots, whether it's outdoor stuff or commercial stuff or basically anything. It's got all the room to fit all my main gear in it. So this is the pack that gets the most use out of them all. I also have this small Evoc pack that I've also had for years. I use this mainly for when I'm out on snow, if I'm out touring or going on a big mission or something where I just need a smaller pack where I can attach all my gear to but still carry some camera gear, as it's only got a small storage space for gear. But awesome pack, and same thing, I've put it through its paces and it's never let me down, so kept it around. I'm not one to keep buying more bags. I just use what works and keep using them until something breaks and then I replace them. So let's jump into the bag and I'll show you some of the gear that I run and how I set things up. Alright, so I had this packed from a shoot the other day and that's why I thought I'd do this video. Alright, so this is how I have my bag laid out, with all the main lenses that I need to cover everything that I need to cover. Again, like I've mentioned in previous videos, when you're starting out, you don't need all this gear. This is accumulation of years of adding to my kit and adding the lenses that I need to do my job to my kit. When you're starting out, you do not need this setup, just so you know. This is years of gear accumulation and refining what I need and what I use more and what I don't. And when it comes to gear, I've always been a minimalist. If I don't use it, I just get rid of it. If it sits on the shelf, I just get rid of it. If it's not making me money, it's not worth having there. I mean, outside of a few fun little lenses that you might use on a camera just for fun. But when it comes to work stuff, if it's not being used, I just sell it and replace it with something that I am going to use. So first up, we got cameras. So this is my trusty old Sony A9 that I've had for years. This is the first A9. Still a beast of a camera even in 2025. I mean, this thing was well ahead of its time. It came out in, I think, 2017. It was like the first stack sensor mirrorless camera. Still fast as, still outperforms even the newer like A7 IVs and stuff in autofocus. Still a beast of a camera. I haven't found a need to replace it. I mean, it kind of is almost getting to that point where it's time for it to get replaced, but it still does the job, still takes an amazing image. Like, this thing, man, I've beat this thing through all sorts of weather situations, dropped it multiple times, like, and it just keeps on trucking. It's been an absolute beast of a camera and I just love it so much, and that's why I still use it on every shoot. And also on that, the stack sensor in the Sony cameras, if you shoot action or sport or anything like I do, the stack sensor is just a must-have. It's just next level. Even these older ones, man, just get one. You can pick these up for next to nothing now. They're still such a good camera. It's also really hot in my studio, so if I look a bit shiny and sweaty, you'll know why. It's the middle of summer here in New Zealand. On the A9 there, we've got the Sigma 24-70. Again, over the years, I've jumped from a lot of different lenses. I used to shoot all Sony lenses. I got sick of paying the crazy price for them. So at some point I switched over to Sigma, and now I shoot predominantly Sigma lenses. They do a great job. Weather sealing's good. Build quality is good. They've never let me down. This is my 24-70. Again, has been thrashed over the years. You can see it's got a giant big scratch on the front element there. Doesn't affect the images. Still a great lens. Still going hard. Remember, for me, these are an investment. I'm looking at return on investment. So if I can get quality glass like this, even if it's scratched like it is, it still performs. My clients don't know that there's a scratch on the front of the lens. Front element scratches don't really show up in anything anyway, but it is due for an upgrade for the Mark II version. But yeah, absolutely love this lens and it's done a lot of work for me. So second body, I've got the A7 IV. This is a backup body slash video body. When I do the odd video jobs, I rig it out with a cage and monitor and everything else that goes on it. But in photography mode, it is a second body, stays in my bag. Again, sometimes I use it as a main body depending on the job for real estate and stuff where I want a bit more resolution. I run that, but great cheap camera in comparison to the more pro bodies and makes an amazing image. You can't go wrong with one of these if you're going the Sony route. A7 IV will soon to be released, so I'll probably upgrade that to that maybe, or I'll just keep shooting with this. I brought this brand new this year and it's been great. Again, I've jumped around a lot of different bodies over the years, tried different stuff and just seen what works for me. As a second body, this does the job. If I'm shooting an event where I run 2 cameras with 2 different lenses, you know, the image out of this is amazing. If I need more speed, I use the A9. So other lenses that I run. Another favorite of mine is the 14-24 2.8 from Sigma. Again, this thing, it's just a beast of a lens, tack sharp. Autofocus is great, weather sealing's great. It's never let me down. Use it for all different occasions, you know, use it as a wide lens for action sports. I use it for real estate. I use it for anything where I need to get in tight, or, you know, you can imagine the scenarios, but that's another one that's always in my bag. So next up, we have the Tamron 70-180 2.8. Now, I've had this for a while and I mainly, stop putting it in front of my face, shouldn't I? So I've had this for a while. I mainly got this years ago because of its size and its weight. It's small and you're only losing 20 mil on the long end. This is another one that I need to upgrade and get rid of, and I'll probably go the Sigma route with their new 70-200. But optically, this lens is tack sharp. The autofocus isn't the greatest, but it does the job. Weather sealing and build quality is pretty average. It's still the Mark 1 version. The second version's way better, but I probably won't go that route. I'll move this on soon. It's done a lot of work for me and I've been happy with it optically, which is the main thing for me. But yeah, it's time to upgrade this and rejig the bag a bit to fit the bigger 70-200 from Sigma in there. So the other main lens that I always have in my kit is the big dog, the Sigma 150-600. This is another lens that stays in my bag. Not so much when I'm doing like commercial stuff, but any event coverage or any sports related action sports stuff, anything where I need that extra bit of range, this lens has just been amazing. As you'll see in previous videos I've made about these sort of out of the standard focal lengths, the images and the compression that this thing creates is just amazing. Again, it's tack sharp, weather sealed, it's Sigma's sport line, so it's just a tank and it's never let me down. It's always created beautiful images, so yeah, that's another one that stays in the bag. So down in this last little pocket at the back, depending on what I'm shooting, I'll either run a fisheye in that. If I'm shooting sports or action sports, I always have a fisheye as well as the 14mm. I mean, this is what is this? TT Artisans 11mm 2.8. Just a cheap little manual lens, but super sharp. You don't need autofocus with a fisheye. As long as you dial in your infinity focus distance, this thing's just sharp, creates a nice image, and it's nice and small and compact. And again, it's never let me down. It's created some awesome images over the years, so I really like this one. Probably due for an upgrade as well. So another lens I sometimes run in that spot as well is just an 85 1.8. This is I think this is Viltrox, Chinese brand, but this is super sharp. Autofocus is good enough for what I use it for. I don't use primes very often. I'm more of a zoom shooter, but the odd commercial job I'll use this on, or headshots, or whatever I'm doing, just where I need a bit more depth of field. But yeah, if the fisheye's not in there, the 85 usually is. But these 4 lenses are basically my must-haves. So we've got the big dog, 150-600, 24-70, the 14-24 and the 70-180 or 70-200 2.8. So all 2.8s. Again, not necessary when you're starting out. This is the type of kit you work towards when you've been doing it for a while. You know, 2 bodies. I've obviously also got a little crop body that I'm filming on now that I do chuck in the bag every now and again if I need a bit more reach or something. But when it comes to my main lenses, these 4 in here are the main lenses that I always have in my kit. Other things I add in here, obviously I have these waterproof pouches, so I run all my batteries and spare cards, cloths, blowers, anything I need I can put in there. With these side pockets on the bag, I'll run a drink bottle in there. I've always got my drink bottle to keep me hydrated. This bag's 10 plus kg, so even just carrying this around makes me get hot. The side pockets, sometimes I'll run a drone controller as well if I'm running my drone in my kit, which is usually just the little mini one. If I'm just doing photography, I just run the little mini one, covering events and stuff. And that'll usually sit The drone itself will usually sit in my bag, and then I'll run the controller on the outside and spare batteries up in here. Up in this top pocket's where I just usually keep my lunch or whatever other little bits and pieces I need. So in there is basically my body and my lenses set up, what I always use on most jobs. And then every now and again I'll shoot flashes, so whether it's again shooting action sports, or I might be doing some headshots for some business headshots or something, so I just run the Godox flashes. I don't know which ones they are, but they don't get used super regularly, so there's no point in having the super high-end ones. The return on investment, you know. Also got this is a Godox softbox kit, big octagon softbox that I can run my speed lights through and just diffuse some of that light for doing headshots and whatnot. Nice and small, you just chuck it in your bag to set up wherever. Other things I might carry are video lights like I'm using now to film this, reflectors. The big round reflectors are handy for on like more commercial jobs, bouncing light around, and drones obviously. I use drones too, so sometimes those are in the bag or separate, you know, in their separate bag. A couple of other quick random things that I always have in my bag. Always have a blower, especially if I'm out shooting in dusty environments or wherever it might be. Always have one of these stashed in my bag somewhere. Another good mention is twin camera harness. Nice comfy padded one. I don't really care for the trendy leather ones that all the wedding photographers wear. I just run one of these because they're comfy. If you're covering events and you're running two bodies all day, they do get heavy. You do get sore arms and shoulders, so I just run one of these to keep them tethered to me, and it works great. Again, not sure of the brand of this, just some cheap one, but it does the job perfectly. So this gives you a bit of an idea of what I use. Again, some of this stuff is old. I've had it for years and it's still doing the job, but it is due for replacement. That is a big misconception that a lot of beginner or amateur photographers have of people who do it for a living, is they assume that we shoot on the latest A12 body or whatever the brand might be, and all the G Master lenses and all this stuff. Most of the guys I know who are photographers for a living just use the gear that they use. They don't, you know, if it does the job, they use it. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Your client doesn't know if you're shooting on a $10,000 camera or a $1,000 camera. If it does the job, it does the job. Everything you see here does the job. Like my trusty old A9, I don't know how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of images this thing's taken, but it's still going strong, and it'll probably still be a great camera in 10 years time. A good camera is a good camera, and if it takes a good image, it takes a good image. Ultimately, if it does the job, it does the job. The things I need are, in certain scenarios, I need a fast camera where the A9 comes in. A7 IV, I need a bit more resolution. All the glass I use is sharp. The autofocus is good. If something lets me down, like a lens or a body, I generally sell it and upgrade it. As soon as it can't do what I need it to do, that's when I replace it. And might be a few surprises in there. I talk to some people and they assume that I use the latest, greatest gear. But like I said, most of the people I work with and most of the guys I know in the industry don't shoot on the latest and greatest gear or the most high-end gear. They shoot on what works for them. And they've usually refined it over years. They've brought the high-end stuff, they've sold it, they've brought other stuff, they've brought in, it's all just return on investment. All this gear is an investment for my business to do the job that I do. So I hope that gives you a bit of insight as to sort of how I set things up and the type of gear I'm using. And if you've got any questions about gear that you're looking at or anything, just shoot it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer what I can. I hope this information helps you in some way or some form. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and do the little notification doodah and all of that. And we'll see you next week. You.